too much fear. We're here for the facts, bro.
This is not rumor or myth. This is the real deal.
You want the truth? We're bringing it to you right here on TBH.
Hello, Full Throttle Doc audience, and welcome to Media PSC Command Central in episode 8 of TBH Breast Implants. Right here on TBH, you'll get straight talk on real breast implant hot topics and trends. Today's episode is the science of social media. We also have a full throttle scrub sync segment with the great Dr. Paul Tutela, who will be joining to provide some great social media insights. With me to help lead TBH is renowned plastic surgeon, educator, and innovator, Dr. Rohrich. Rod, the science of social media, it's almost like a misnomer, don't you think? I mean, what do you think about this?
I think it's amazing, science and social media. But let's get into it. It's going to be amazing.
And you know, we've got some great experts to kind of tell us like what is the exact science of social media, and so I think it's gonna be really interesting. It's a little different than some of the other topics that we've done, so I'm really excited about it, and really excited to introduce our two experts who are great people and have I think a real expertise in social media. So let's meet the great Dr. Franco.
TBH introduces a trailblazer bringing plastic surgery innovation to a global audience. He earned his medical degree from UTMB and trained as chief resident at St. Louis University before completing elite fellowships in Taiwan and Belgium, mastering advanced microsurgery, breast reconstruction, and fat transfer. Today, he leads a thriving practice in Austin, teaches surgeons worldwide, and is an in-demand speaker known for cutting-edge technique and natural lasting results. With nearly 1 million followers, he translates the newest advances in plastic surgery for patients and physicians everywhere. Comfortable in the spotlight and driven to educate, he's appeared on national television, been featured in top publications, and shares expert insight through his podcast, Plastic Surgery Untold. A proven leader, he's past president of the Austin Society of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeons. He's been named Best Plastic Surgeon in Austin 2 years running and a New Beauty top doctor. From Austin to the world, welcome a trusted voice, Dr. Franco.
Johnny, I knew you were a great talent, but I didn't know half of that stuff. That's awesome. Great.
I think my mom helped make this. It looks great. I'm Austin. I'm working up towards national like you guys, but no, appreciate you guys having me. Super exciting topic. I think super timely because I know we'll get into it, but I definitely feel like social media is a double-edged sword. Been a great way to share ideas, share information, but definitely can be the wild, wild west sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be great. All right, well, we're going to meet our second expert. So let's meet the talented Dr. Daniel Barrett.
TBH is excited to introduce a leading voice in plastic surgery, driving real-time education, transparency, and conversation in aesthetic medicine. Based in Beverly Hills, he specializes in aesthetic and reconstructive surgery of the face, breast, and body. With nearly 2 decades of experience and more than 5,000 breast augmentations, his work is defined by precision and natural results. He trained at the Keck School of Medicine of USC, completing a rigorous 6-year plastic and reconstructive surgery residency. He holds dual master's degrees in physiology and health administration, alongside his medical doctorate from the Medical College of Virginia. Since opening his Beverly Hills practice, he has become known for advanced scar techniques, meticulous surgical execution, and a holistic patient-first approach that focuses on healing and long-term results. A published researcher and international presenter, he has also appeared on The Doctors and entertainment television as an expert in modern aesthetic surgery. With more than 1 million followers, his opinions influence and educate, shaping trends and transparency worldwide. Welcome a surgeon bringing confidence, connection, and clarity, Dr. Daniel Barrett.
Dan, how you doing? Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to be here, you guys. You know, I love social media. I love plastic surgery, and I'm really honored to be here in the same venue as you guys. You have no idea.
Well,
So,
actually, you and I finally met at the Aesthetic Society meeting a couple weeks ago in person. But I feel like
yeah.
we already know you, Dan, because it's been, the funny thing in TBH is, man, we always run across Dan's videos because they're all they're quite good, but it's funny because we'll have these people on and they're just shredding this video and that video, and then we'll put Dan's video on and everything. Well, I like that one, so we got to have Dr. Barrett on because he's full throttle, So appreciate you coming after operating all day too. So I know it's not easy. Yeah.
I mean, that's very flattering, you guys. I really appreciate that. It's been a pleasure meeting you at the meeting, and I'm really looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun. So before we get going, we want to say thanks to all our sponsors. We couldn't do it without them. A double shout out to Allergan, who stepped up and led the way to make TBH breast implants possible. Rod, I can tell you, I was just in the BTS meeting in Stockholm. I had so many people that come up to me and go, "Oh my God, I watched TBH. It's great. I love it." So, again, shout out to Allergan, kind of in keeping with how they've always been. They've always been kind of a leader in our specialty and supportive because they really supported us to get this going. So,
yep. And I've had the same feedback, not only on social media, but also recently at the aesthetic meeting. And so, kudos to Allergan for being a real team player and wanting to seek out the truth.
Yep. Okay, BJ, let's get to the show. So here we go with some full throttle edutainment. But before we go full throttle, we want to hear from you in the audience. Make sure to like us, but send us your questions and anything you want to hear discussed. You can send those questions and comments to the Plastic Surgery channel on YouTube or at HeyDocTBH on X. So we're going to get to the first case of the day. All right, so Johnny and Dan and Rod, so this is the science of social media. And I know everybody's thinking, well, it's kind of, like I said, it's almost like a little bit of a misnomer or oxymoron, but I think there really is some science. And I think, Johnny and Dan, you guys are experts in this, so I think you'll be able to help kind of talk to those things. But this is our first question I kind of put in. I just think this is a fundamental one. But, Johnny, let's just start with you. How do you see social media as changing the breast implant consult or the breast implant patient?
Number one, I honestly think that it's really improved the consult. I feel like a lot of our patients come in much more educated. I feel like it definitely helps open up the conversations because whether it's our social media, yours or Dan's, when people bring stuff in and they're like, "Hey, I saw this," it gives us an exact framework to be able to talk about. I feel like it's taken out a little bit of the black box. I honestly loved the transparency trend that went on because I think people were pleasantly surprised how many things happen for an outcome to actually get there. No question, it can be a little bit confusing because there is so much noise out there. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, and it's really how do you get through all the noise out there in social media? But I think overall, I would say it's made my consults more fruitful, more meaningful with our patients.
Yeah, Dan, what do you think?
Social media has changed the world. The Kardashian. I'm here in Beverly Hills. I'm right in the middle of it. The Kardashian effect. My patients. If you look statistically nationwide, 46% of patients consult social media when they're considering doing plastic surgery procedure, and that's kind of old. It's probably higher than that. And then 40% actually rely heavily upon social media when making decisions about plastic surgery. So that's nationwide. I'd say it's probably a higher percentage in my practice. Obviously, I have a higher social media presence, and I feel like it's a great way to bring information and knowledge to the average person out there that's considering plastic surgery. So I agree with Johnny. It's the way of the future, and it's a good thing.
So the one follow-up I have is do you guys feel that you have to really do social media right in our specialty? Do you yourselves need to be integrally involved? Is that important, or can you delegate that? What are your thoughts on that?
It's like dating. I mean, it's like people. It's like it's been a while since I've been married now for over 10 years, but I will tell you that when they go out on a date with somebody, they like to check their Instagram profile and things like that. I remember that was happening back even when I was, prior to me getting married. And I feel like people kind of want to check what they want to do their research. They want to look at the social media profiles for people that are involved or procedures that they're considering that are really important to them. So I feel like it's something that people it's kind of like it's like it's like your window front, right? When you go shopping, you're window shopping, and then okay, maybe I like this surgeon. Let me find out more about them. And so they want to get more details about who's going to be doing the operation. So I do think it's important to have some presence so people can kind of, if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
So
I think Dan is right on. I think what it does, it starts the consult at a different level, and people seek you out for who you are and what you talk about. But they come to you, they know you, and so the consult, I think, starts at a much different level, don't you think? Versus just cold. It's really been, certainly I do face and noses, but it's been a game changer, like you guys said.
I think one of the biggest compliments I get is when patients come in for a consult or for a visit, and they're like, "You're exactly like you are on social media," and that's why I think
is that a good thing?
Well, most of the time, but I do think it weeds stuff out, because there's patients that are going to connect with Dan, people are going to connect with me, people are going to connect with Bill, and ultimately we want happy patients. And if we just don't mesh, it's better to know that from the beginning. Our time, their time, precious, and so kind of to know what they're getting. This is why I think you do have to be involved, because you want it to be your brand voice, you want it to be your vision. But I do think there's things that you can. And I use the term outsource kind of loosely, whether you have in-house marketing, whether you have like the team you guys have at Plastic Surgery Channel, which is phenomenal. They can do the editing, some of those other things that eat up time. AI, I'm sure you guys will have on another episode of kind of that world of it. But I think that theirs is huge in terms of still being your voice. My team knows I hate stock images. If we put a stock image up, I lose my mind, because I think it wastes everybody's time.
Yep.
The funny thing, Dan, you said you back before you were married, it was like 10 years ago, and even then people were checking the Instagram profile. And I'm just happy when I was in that, because I'm a little headed, behind you or older than you. So I think I'm glad then there wasn't social media when I was going through that, because
we're really glad there wasn't social media.
Yeah. And Rod, I thought I would ask you to, like, for example, you were editor in chief of the journal, the PRS, for 25 years. And but to your credit, you obviously saw something in social media, because there was no social media, and you took that journal and you really made it a big part of the journal. So why don't you explain what you saw, what your insight was?
Well, what we saw was there was no social media. And so the journal actually led the way for the ASPS to start social media. So we started with X or Twitter, and we wanted to just have real plastic surgeons talking about real plastic surgery. And that was kind of an epiphany. So that was very embryonic, and that's how I got started in social media. It was, Twitter, and now X, and then it was Facebook, and so way before Instagram. So I agree with you. I think it's a totally different level, and it's so good to see real plastic surgeons like you guys on there in a much high profile role. Like you guys and Tony Jung, real people talking about real things. There's so much noise out there that's not believable. So I think it's really important that we really try and get science out of social media. It's like trying to, get wine out of a grape. You got to squeeze hard.
100%. You're exactly. You hit on a really important thing here, because there's a lot of people that are not board certified plastic surgeons on social media, and a lot of times they're better at it, and they have to kind of.
Oh yeah.
They don't have the credentials, and so I feel like it's if you can do it, I think it's really good for the
specialty.
Yes, 100%. So you're absolutely right. Even if you're not good at it, getting that information out there, and if you are good at it, it's doing a good service, because a lot of people don't know the difference between a board certification, and that's really important when you're trying to do good plastic surgery and get safe plastic surgery.
Right.
Because Dan, people are going to get their information somewhere. It might as well be from the experts, like the people that are on this panel, the people that have been on this podcast. Because if not, it's going to be their TikTok influencer. To your point, non-plastic surgeons that are not shy about giving their opinion about procedures.
Right. Most of the time, and you guys are right. Most patients, I think it's up to 80% now, Dan, they actually look at social media first. Now I think it's ChatGPT or it's Claude to find out who they should see for plastic surgery. Do they read are you kidding? I mean, you know, you
Right.
can't get a millennial more than 30 seconds to read, but social media, they'll be on it for hours. So let's get some real plastic surgeons on there talking about real things like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even
It's-
those
it's
search
hard.
engines have changed, right? Because now Google even indexes your reels. So even when they're doing their traditional searches, your Instagram and your social media posts
Yep.
are actually popping up as part of those. And Gemini, you know, as part of that AI search, and it's indexing YouTube and reels and those type of information.
Right. And it, you know, it's, you know, I have an associate that joined the practice, and, you know, he's never really done social media and stuff like that. And so I get it. And like, when I remember back to when I was starting, I had to take a hosting class to like get me used to like talking on the camera, because, you know, we're good with talking with patients and we're good at doing surgery, but it's just like, it's a whole different world when you're trying to kind of contain and express your thoughts in a meaningful way in front of a camera, and like, you know, like people that are filming you, these are awkward things, and it's really hard. So it's something that all of us should think about doing, and trying improving at least a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to transition to, you know, the thing, and we all hear it, you know, when people complain about social media, it's always like, you know, oh my God, this person or these guys are talking about this, and it's like such BS, and, you know, there's no science behind this. So there's this, you know, I would say I kind of call it walking. There's a fine line, you know, this balance between science education, true education, evidence-based surgery, information, and then marketing and gimmickry and online trends. And both of those, you know, both of those things clear, you know, go on. And certainly, you know, with all, and certainly without, it's always, you guys mentioned like, yeah, there's so many non-plastic surgeons, and yeah, those guys and girls. You know, there's a lot more issues with those people, but even within our specialty, you know, there's people that, you know, put stuff out on social media that, you know, 10 years ago would never happen, but now it's just like the Wild West, right? And so what, you guys probably better than anybody can comment on this. I mean, how do you guys see that dilemma, that the line between, you know, the balance between science education, evidence-based surgery, and then marketing, you know, gimmickry and online trends? Johnny, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it in the title, right? It's a little bit of education. It's a little bit of entertainment. No question that, you know, hot trends, hot topics are what get the views. And I'd be lying if I didn't look at, you know, when I post something before bed, the first thing I look in the morning is, did anybody share this? Did anybody like it? I mean, we're all, you know, personable in terms of that and see it. So I think there's a little bit of walking the line. It's kind of interesting in the world of aesthetics is that, you know, and even with some of the procedures, treatments I do, I know that I've been in meetings with Rod, and he said, hey, by the time you come to Dallas, show me some data about this. And so to his credit, but he was actually willing to invite me to come do that. So I think that's super helpful. You know, I think you could talk about these online trends, but I think you need to be upfront with like, hey, here's what I believe. Here's some of the stuff that we're still looking at. I think sometimes when people talk in absolutes, like this is the best treatment, this is the best implant, there's very few things that we do that is the single best treatment for everybody in the world. I honestly don't know if there's anything I do that's the single one best treatment for anybody and everybody in the world. So I think being really cautious about what we know, what we believe, what we think.
What do you think, Dan?
Absolutely. You know, we want more data. We don't have enough studies on the majority of stuff we do in cosmetic surgery, and that's a weakness, and we know about it, and we got to get more people doing more, including myself. I just, you know, it's hard to do that, and but it is so important to have the data to kind of to show the evidence behind these things, and but people want to know kind of what works for me sometimes, and I say it, and then I'm really careful about, you know, this sometimes works better for me, or, you know, like I find it to be this way. They want me to comment on trends like buccal fat pad removal, and you know, a lot of this comes from, I have a great team, by the way. They really are good, and they bring these topics up. And then some topics I don't want to talk about. I just like, well, you know, I don't want to be too controversial and go wrong on the record. But sometimes I, you know, like used to not really. I used to think brow lifts are way overdone, and now I'm starting to like them a little bit more. You know, and you know, it's various trends, but I try to like soften it. Like Johnny said, like you don't speak in absolutes, and that's true from almost everything. And you got to kind of make that distinction when you're talking to people.
And I think that's important, but they want to hear from experts, real plastic surgeons that are experts. And that's level 5 evidence, but that's important evidence. That's good because they want to know what you think versus kind of some, hyperbole about, that you're, blowing hot air at them. So I think it's important. I think that's why both of you are very popular on social media, because I think you come across as being very honest. And I think that's really important. So you've got to do that. You got to own it. And I think that's really what you guys do well. And I think talking about breast implants, Bill, a lot of people don't own it. They probably don't own much, but they really talk a lot about how they own it.
Yeah, I mean that, and obviously this show is about breast implants, and so that's an area. And we're in our second case of the day. We'll actually have a number of reaction videos that you guys can look at, and there's going to be, I think, at least in my opinion, some that are good, some are not so good, but that's just the reality of the world we live in. And I do think that all of us as experts in the field and real board certified plastic surgeons, the responsibility now shifts, I think, to our group to kind of police some of the stuff, because before social media, you didn't have to do that. It was just, you either published a paper and it got peer reviewed, or you went to a meeting and that's where everything was vetted. But now, like you said, Johnny, it's like every day, it's like there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of posts, and anybody can get on there and do it.
Right.
And people, because there are so many posts, people are much more aggressive about the hook bait, the scroll stopping, whatever you want to call it, of making some very bold, aggressive statements, because if you follow any of the other kind of information about how to grow your following, it's like, make these bold statements, make these hook statements, make these scroll stopping things, which tend to be very controversial, very, very bold. And so I think sometimes people get a little aggressive and make statements, to Dan's point, that maybe are a little bit more absolute or heart founded than we probably should.
All right, well, listen, that means that we're going to go to the sew it up, and we sew up this case just like he finished up, like Dan did right at the end of his case. He's closed everything up. So we're going to do some Q&A to wrap this up. So we have people submit questions, Johnny and Dan, and so you guys as experts, we're going to pitch these to you guys and let you guys comment on them. So Cam, let's bring up question number 2. And this actually has a video to go with it, but the question was like, what is the drop and fluff? So we picked a video, so let's roll it, and we'll just watch part of this and then let you guys comment.
What is implant drop and fluff? This refers to the amount of time it takes for implants to reach their final position. This takes longer in below muscle implants and less time in above muscle implants. The drop and fluff in below muscle implants takes a significant amount of time longer because the implant is placed underneath your pec muscle. The pec muscle is used to staying along your chest wall. When we add the volume of an implant, it takes time for that pec muscle
to
I
think that's
relax and create.
All right, so kind of what do you guys think about that and this term? I don't know why that term bothers me, but for some reason I just don't like the term.
It's like the most scientific term. It drove me nuts. People were like, "What does that mean?" And when I first started, I was like, "I don't know." I mean, you don't even think about these things. You don't learn in residency. Okay, yeah, you need time for your results to heal in. But I mean, she's breaking it down probably more than it is actually happening. I think it's a combination of all the soft tissue. Depends on the patient. Depends on the implant size, where you are going above or below the muscle. I tell patients 6 weeks. I tell patients their breasts look like aliens because they always get that call the next day, or when you see them the next day, or you see them the first week, they're like, "Is it going to really look like this?" I'm like, "No." Remember, I actually give my patients a video. That's one of the things I tell them is don't judge your results right away. Obviously, there's something crazy going on. Let me know, but it's not going to look good right away. It's got to drop and fluff over 6 to 9 weeks is what I tell people.
Yeah.
So use the word drop and fluff. I love it.
That's what they know that term. It's like
I know.
Come up with
it's a patient term, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And actually, I know Anna Steve, and
Johnny. What do you think?
She's a great plastic surgeon, but it's kind of unique. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with Anna. I do think it takes longer under the muscle. We can argue about why, but I do think it's a myth, and I think people make overstatement that over the muscle that things are perfect. I'm with Dan. I try to downplay because it's the old adage that I think we all learned in residency. Under promise, over deliver. So I really try not to make a distinction of how long with one versus the other, because I mean, you get a difference from one side to the other. You get a difference depending on the implant size for sure. So I think there's a lot of factors. I think muscle is one of them. I do think it takes a little longer in my own patients if it's under the muscle, but I definitely see it with both above and below in my own people.
Yeah.
Bill, do you talk about the drop in?
I don't know. Full disclosure, I said I just don't like the term, but I recognize it. Like you guys said, it's a patient term. But the thing is, like, it's not that, and actually, to Anna's credit, she doesn't say that the implants are, he says that everything's relaxing. That's what's happening. The skin and tissues are accommodating, but nothing's really dropping. So it's a little bit of a misnomer, but patients, again, sometimes you have to speak in patient language, and we know that. So
Right.
I don't know, maybe I'm just being too much of a hard ass. I don't know, but I got to figure it out. All right, Cam, let's do question number 1. I think this is a good one for you guys. So this is, what's the best way to figure out if you're a patient, I guess, or maybe not, maybe you're a doctor. What's the best way to figure out if a social media post is accurate, factually accurate?
Ooh, that's a tough one. But one, I think just clicking on and seeing actually who the person is and what they've actually done. I think also too, what's interesting is you see people who, like you, Bill, that talk about breast all the time, or Rod that talks about noses. I mean, sometimes it's pretty easy to see somebody that just jumps on every single trend that comes out. And I'll be honest, in this day and age, it's hard to be an expert on every single procedure in aesthetics. That's challenging in this day and age.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
I think you just chat GPT it. First round, chat GPT it. Is this real? Like, is this true? Like, I heard about Memorial Day, there was a group of teenagers that saw some Sasquatches. Someone mentioned, I was like, is that true? Yeah, sure enough. That happened over Memorial Day. There was a group of teenagers thought they saw Sasquatch. So a chat GPT, it can give you if there's studies that studies that it's referring to, then you can find the studies and then do some deeper research. So I would say that's the first thing I would do.
Yeah.
But what's funny is Pat will even tell you about the surgeons and be like, oh, Dr. Franco, really specializes in lipo and butt, doesn't do as many, rhinoplasties, other things. So it's pretty interesting how much it can actually tell you whether that person is an expert in that field or not.
Yeah, but with ChatGPT, you have to teach it, because sometimes, Dan, they'll want to say something to appease you. Then you say, is that really true? And then they'll say, well, not really. Here's the real facts.
Right.
And then either that or you say, hey, I'm going to Claude. So it's got to be, ChatGPT is too sympathetic to you. And that's the problem.
So,
anyway,
so Rod, what do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do, Rod?
Well, I'll go to Claude. Because with ChatGPT, you almost have to treat them like a resident. You say, do you really mean that? Is that true? And then you say, well, maybe not. So
I use Grok AI. That's what I typically use.
Grok is great. You bet.
Yeah.
It's just like Elon Musk talking to you. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love talking to it in the morning driving to work in my Tesla.
But you're actually not driving, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not driving. That's right. Grok is driving. Grok is great, Dan. Yeah.
All right. That's great. So that's a great segment. We're going to go to our scrub sink. Okay. Well, we're really excited. We have Dr. Paul Tutela here. John, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Really, it's an honor to be on the show. Dr. Rohrich, you are such a legend in so many ways. Dr. Adams, you too. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, and so JP, you're in practice in New Jersey and in New York, I guess, both.
Yep.
And I know you have a great practice there, and you also are a real expert in social media. So this whole show is on the science of social media. So we wanted to kind of bring you on, and we really wanted to tackle one key question, which is you see a lot of people reviewing. I mean, honestly, we on Hey Doc, Rod and I review a lot of this too. Celebrities what did they have done? Did they have this done? Oh, I think they had this done. And I guess the question is, just to get into it, do you feel like is that legitimate? Or is it just people wanting to get people to click on things and kind of bring things in, trying to use the notoriety or ride a wave of a famous celebrity? Or is there some real educational value to it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think really a little bit of both. I think it makes sense. A lot of times these topics are trending. It's on topic. People want to know, when you're a celebrity, you're kind of in the face of media. Some people see big changes in them, and they want to know what it takes to go from, point A to point B. So I totally get that a lot of people do that. A lot of plastic surgeons do that. I kind of shy away from it myself. I always kind of felt like, if it's something I probably wouldn't say to them with them in the room, I didn't want to, kind of partake in that way. I've probably been convinced to do that on one occasion. It kind of made me kind of feel a little funny when I was done with it. So I don't do it myself, but I totally get it. It makes a lot of sense. And if you're getting it from a, board certified plastic surgeon, I think you're getting some pretty good insights on how to get from, point A to point B.
Yeah. Johnny and Dan, you guys have any insights into that question?
Well, Dan, you're in the heart of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with John. You get a little bit of both. I've done it myself, and you have a lot of people that really want to know, and it's kind of a good opportunity to shed some light onto potential plastic surgery procedures that they might have had done. I'm very careful with it. I never badmouth it. I never try to talk negatively about anybody. But I'm like, and I give it as an opinion because I've actually had a celebrity gave me a cease and desist to take the post down when I mentioned my opinion about what surgery I thought she might have had done, which turns out it was accurate when the surgeon called me and asked me to remove the post as well. But at the same time, I'm not trying to push buttons with my neighbors right around here either.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate thing, and I'm not out there to try to make people look bad, but I'm also out there to let people know, the general population, that a lot of celebrities do have plastic surgery. It's okay. I feel like if they are a celebrity, I feel like they have I guess a duty to kind of be a little bit more transparent. So because people don't think that, oh, they just were born that way, right, and they'll never be able, So I feel like there's a bit of a duty to have some transparency if you're in the limelight, and so that's why I don't mind doing those. I don't do them so much anymore. Again, I'm not trying to ruffle the feathers of all my neighbors around here.
But that's why I love the transparency trend so much, because a lot of times in the past, people were like, oh, I just do, protein shake in the morning and I do, my 10-minute walk around the block and I look like this. And you're like, you didn't go from here to there by doing a 10-minute walk around the block. And so I do think it's been helpful for people to set real expectations of what it takes.
Yeah, I think all those points are correct. You don't badmouth the surgeon, you don't badmouth the celebrity. You just say, hey, these are things that they could have had. But I agree with both of you, especially what Dan said about, when celebrities say, I did all this with olive oil, or I just had Botox, when they've had about 5 other things that started with a B and other procedures. So, I think transparency, we're seeing a little more of that in Hollywood, don't you think, Dan? I mean, a little bit, especially with the Kardashians, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I think that gives them more credibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Paul, what do you think about, obviously, especially now, I mean, how many pictures on social media are real pictures versus things that have been touched or AI, altered, and how in the world do you sort that out?
It's shocking. I definitely don't know the percentage, but the number of patients that I see, and I've seen their maybe social media before, they've reached out to me and I've looked at their, profile. And when they come in and they look nothing like their profile pictures or how they present themselves on social media. And so it really is incredible to see how far people will go to distort their image. I don't know how to tell. I don't know that there's a surefire way to figure that out just by looking on social media. You asked before, how do you find out if something's accurate, as far as looking at a surgeon's profile? And I think you guys, made a lot of great points with that. Figuring out who you're looking at, what kind of credentialing they have is important. But when you're looking the other way and you're just looking at a model or an Instagram influencer, I think it's getting, more and more difficult to figure out whether this is a realistic look. How can a woman even look like this? that can, skew expectations for other women. And I think that makes things, difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
It used to be just pictures, right? That we were, and they were like, "Oh, well, videos were great because people can't fake videos," which is not true anymore.
Yeah.
I know.
You can make any type of videos. You can make these things. Somebody walking, somebody in your office. I mean, so no longer are videos even safe from this. But there's also a lot of educational opportunities with it too. So I'm not down on it.
Yeah. I think.
Well,
it's
the data,
really tough to tell.
Yeah, the data was probably 80 up to 80% of social media images are probably altered. And, until AI, movies or videos are safe. I mean, that's why I try and show videos of patients. But now with AI, you guys are right. I mean, it's amazing how AI actually has transformed it. You go, wow, is that real or is it not?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's spooky. It's spooky sometimes. They'll show like an implant going into a breast, or like we've played with it maybe a couple times of just a patient transformation moving into their actual before, and then we morph into their actual after. And we got mixed feelings from our audience, and they're like, we don't like that. And so we kind of like backed off a little bit because there's a lot of creative people out there, and a lot of creatives don't like the use of AI for those type of things. And so we kind of backed off a little bit, but there's some really bizarre stuff you could see. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, I mean, if you don't have a big marketing team, we've done them where we've created like a butt and showing like where fat's, ejected into fat above the muscle from an educational, most of us run small practices. It's pretty interesting that the educational videos, tools that you can make with this if you use them the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. So John Paul, last question for you is just, do you ever have people coming in to you, they either saw your social media or maybe saw some other social media, but they want to look like this person, that they saw on a social media post? And what do you think about that? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the trend, obviously in today's day and age, is, bringing in social media influencer or some other, character on social media, as opposed to maybe my father's era, it was an actress that they would refer to or something like that. So, there's plenty of pictures and people for them to choose from. I think, managing expectations is one of the most important jobs we have to do during the consultation, and letting them know, what's, available, what's kind of realistic. Sometimes they dial in a little too much where they think, well, this person has a 400cc implant. That looks too big. I don't want that. Or a 350 looks good. And, it's not exactly translatable from one person on social media, to their own body. But I do think it does give a really good insight, when you look at them kind of as wish pics that, people bring in, because, it helps me realize what their goals are. And so, once you're able to realize what their goals are with pictures is a little easier than just trying to tease it out with questions and kind of getting an idea of what their personality is like, especially when you're trying to pick the, right breast implant. So I think as wish pics, I think it's helpful. It kind of gets you inside their mind, what their goals are a little bit more, concretely.
Yeah, great stuff. Rod, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a classic example is, Jenner. She came out and said she had, what was it? Dan probably knows, was it 425 or 450 bill implants that she said she,
Jenner.
Yeah,
half of the muscle. Yeah,
and
she said the doctor. She said the
right.
The placement. She said the profile. She said everything,
which
was cool.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah,
and so I'm sure you guys had hundreds
Why
of
she
patients.
get such a small implant?
I know, exactly. That's because she's in California,
Texas,
not
right?
in Texas. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean,
Exactly.
so how did you handle patients? Obviously, you guys, you're in LA, but I mean, and Bill, I'd like to see how you guys handle it. I mean, I think it's a real thing. And if for noses, they come in and they show me a nose, a celebrity nose, and I go, wow, you really don't want that nose because here are the things that I don't like about it. And they say, oh yeah, well, I want something like that. But so what do you guys do when they come in with with the generous size implant.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's all just about patient education. At the end of the day, the social media is just one thing that's out there that people see, but it's just a start. And so once patients come to the office, it's the responsibility of the
Right.
doctor and the practice to educate that patient appropriately. And so sometimes it may be perfectly fine. And sometimes, you've got somebody that's 6 feet tall and has a 13 centimeter wide breast, and she really needs she might need a 450 cc implant, but
Right.
then her friend is 5 feet and has a BMI of 16, and there's no way she's going to have that implant, and you need to educate her why.
Yeah. I agree with Bill. It's a good starter, and you want to break it down based on components. And I explained like a 6'2" pro volleyball player is going to need a different implant than someone who's 5 feet tall to get that same look. And then I said, okay, well, what is it about the cleavage you like? What is it about the side boob you like? What proportions to shoulder width? So I kind of break it down in those things, and it helps them kind of understand it a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not the CC size that varies. How much breast tissue you had to begin with, that also affects it too.
All right. Well, John Paul, listen, been great having you on, and thanks so much for being part of the star of the scrub scene. It was awesome.
Yeah, really. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really an honor, and for everybody else on the show, it was great listening to your guys' perspective, and hope to see you guys soon.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And we're going to move to the second case of the day. All right, so this part, Dan and Johnny, is where we're going to do a bunch of reaction videos. And so we have some great things for you guys to look at. It's a potpourri of different videos. I think you guys enjoy a lot of these. So the first one is the implant torture chamber.
Yeah.
Implant torture test. Totally fine. Fine. With the boots.
Texas cowboy boots.
Fine. Door. Implant.
Oh, I like the door idea.
Oh God. Oh.
Fine. So fine.
That's actually the great Rolando Morales. He's a great plastic surgeon from Houston. So what do you guys think, Johnny? What do you think on that one?
I actually love it. Rolando and I were actually classmates at UTMB together. I think honestly, the first one with him squeezing it, that's about as strong as you can get for anybody.
Yeah, he's a strong guy. Yeah.
But I think it's a fun way. It's not hurting anybody. It's just trying to show like, hey, these implants are super durable. They are very, very safe. He wasn't making over things, but making it fun and exciting. So I honestly vote yes. I like it.
Yeah. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, totally agree. A lot of people are worried about, something happened to their implant. They feel like it ruptured. I'm like, well, what happened? I've had people get in car accidents, bit by a horse, and that implant's totally fine. And then sometimes people are just like the daintiest people. They don't do anything and it ruptures, and we know there's various reasons why things rupture. So I think these videos are fun and they're good. Yeah, I did a version of this, but I think it might have been a Lamborghini instead of a souped up truck like that.
Yeah.
Well, you're in California.
I know, right? Yeah, we have right here on Rodeo Drive.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly as you guys said, like this is actually a real concern of patients. That I think people feel like, oh, well, like I'm not going to be able to do anything, or what if I get bumped in the chest, my implant's going to break. And I think we've actually done the same thing. We had we ran it over with a car, and then we actually strapped it to a horse's hoof, and they were walking around on it. But
wow.
Just to show that, these implants are quite strong,
Right.
and so they're the devices themselves, are have a lot of strength to it. So I actually thought Rolando did a great job in this.
Yeah,
All right, so
thumbs up.
so now, all right, this is here's another one. Let's take a look.
Hey everyone, so projection of implant, a lot of it is actually chosen for you, or profile of the implant. So let's talk about it a little bit. These are all very similar CCs of implants, but they are all different projections or profiles. So every company has different names for theirs. So I'm just going to kind of say some generic names, but the desk is like your chest wall. So the implants kind of sit like this off your chest. So the projection or profile is how far they project off of your chest wall. Okay. So again, same CCs, low plus, moderate, full, extra full. Again, every company has different names for them, but just kind of a generic thing. So really when you come, the biggest things that we take are the measurements of your chest. That's the most important, especially the width of your breast. You want to put in an implant that's going to fill out the entire width of your breast, and then describing how you want to look. Those two things are going to tell me what volume and what profile of implant that we're going to use based on what you're describing. Like if you have a very wide breast, but you want to be a double D, we are going to be talking about, something like moderate full profile, very larger than probably what you're thinking, because you have a wide breast and we have to make sure we fill that out. If you put it in too narrow of an implant, it's going to look a little odd because you're going to have a wider cleavage gap and it's just not going to center on your nipple correctly. So you really want to fill out the width of what your breast is. So how do we decide on that is, again, what you're describing to me, how big you want to go, and then the measurement. So say you want something and the moderate profile implant of that size is a 14, but you measure a 13. So the implant is too wide for you. So you have to narrow the implant to get it to fit. So to get it to narrow, the silicone has to go somewhere. So when you narrow the implant, the silicone is going to project more. So to get that same volume into your narrower chest, we have to move to a narrow implant that's going to project more for that same volume. So I really don't want you to get hung up on projection either, because a lot of that is decided for you based on your measurements and what you're describing volume-wise what you want to look like. So that's how we decide on projection or profile of the implant.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I think there's so much projection confusion out there. But what do you think about that one?
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it. She's clearly new at this. She's having a hard time controlling her breath, and just she's getting in there. She's doing it. I love it. And she's talking about a really hot topic, and it's a common one. People get confused about high profile all the time. I get people come in, I want natural and I want high profile. I'm like, okay, well, high profile doesn't mean up here, and I have to tell people that it doesn't mean up here. Every single person I have to tell them that. It means like out this way. And so I think more education on that is great. I don't know what else we could do about it, but that's great.
Johnny?
Yeah, I thought she's great. The only way to get better is by doing. So absolutely love that. I think consistency is the most important. For anybody who's watching, and this isn't a critique, but if I could give one advice to it, I would say put the captions. Most people, it's easy to do with a lot of the apps out there because about 70% of people don't have the sound on. So if I would give her one word advice, put the captions. A lot of great information. People will read it because they're at work when they should be working, answering phones, but they're watching her videos.
I thought it was very educational. I think the background was distorting and confusing, but she was very good and she was believable, like both of you said. And I think captions definitely help, because a lot of people may not even understand it. So I think they can go back. I think it was good.
I mean, I liked it too. I mean, I thought she did a really great job. I think that's a really big question that comes up. I think there's a lot of confusion amongst patients about projection. And so, hey, we give her the applause on that. So, all right, we're going to go to the next one. So let's take a look.
Let's briefly talk about the differences between under the muscle placement of implants or over the muscle. Now, for the past 20 years, the most popular placement for implants has been under the muscle for three primary reasons. If you put the implant under the muscle, it adds more tissue coverage to the upper profile of the breast and gives you a much natural, softer profile, not a bump if you don't want that. The other advantages are that it lowers the rate of capsular contracture with conventional smooth surfaced implants. And that was the number one complication of the implants in the past. The third advantage is that it increases the ability to perform a mammogram or ultrasound or MRI with less distortion or less interference by the implant. Now, the disadvantage was more surgery and more recovery. Currently, Motiva has developed a smooth surface, almost this frosted smooth silk surface, which has been shown to lower the rate of capsular contracture when placing the implant over the muscle. So this has now become a more increasing popular option for patients who are considering that option because it's less surgery and a quicker return to work. The one disadvantage is the capsule does have an advantage of holding the implant in place, so there is an increased need for use of various mesh-type materials, also known as the internal bra. I hope it clarifies the difference between the two implants and while over the muscle is now an increasingly popular option.
What do you think, Johnny?
You know, I there's pros and cons to this. I do love the images. I think building in images like this to the videos are super, super helpful. Had he not had images, or like the previous video not had the implants, they become really abstract and really hard to do. You know, just some of, I guess, my own personal bias. I think there was a few statements in there that I think were a little strong that, you know, recovery for one versus the other. I think you can have a pretty quick recovery with both of those. I don't know that just because you go over the muscle that you have to do an internal bra. I think there's more factors to it than just where the implant's placed. So I think visually overall great. This one, I would add captions. I love the images. I think there was a few kind of strong statements that maybe we just wish you would have put the, hey, my opinion, my thought about that.
Dan?
Yeah, I give it an A+ in terms of the video. Obviously, you know, you're going to open a can of worms where they go above or below the muscle Motiva and bio. We could have a whole separate podcast about that. But I thought it was an A+ in terms of the amount of effort he put into it. So I like it.
Rod, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think overall it was very visual and it was very fact-filled, except in the end he kind of teetered off into some pseudo science, not completely what is probably accepted by a lot of people. But, you know, I think showing above and below the muscle, most of that was very true, especially what he talked about in below the muscle.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good video. I do think it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. You know, you guys were kind of talking the walking the line and how, you know, there's this line, and for, you know, I think most of it was pretty balanced and educational. But then I think when he starts talking about Motiva and that it has a lower capsular contracture rate, that's completely not evidence-based. And actually, you know, we've talked about this before on TBH. You know, there's studies that actually show that the surface of the implant makes no difference in capsular contracture rate. So I think that's where it got a little bit sideways for me.
Yeah, but overall,
I think it's nice if you could say, hey, I like to do this, or my personal practice is
right.
And that way, you know, and Dan talked about this earlier. So then you're being really clear, like, here was the facts, and then here's a couple personal preferences I have.
Yeah. You know, I would end that by saying, hey, today I do like to do X for this reason, because that's what I like. And I think both of you do that well. And I think that way it says, hey, okay, that's your opinion and you're an expert.
Yeah. All right. This next one is actually, you know, we kind of segued from this one was under over the muscle, a little bit kind of promotional on Motiva. Well, then this is the other side of the coin. So this is just a social media post, but I don't even know who they are. But basically, you know, it's basically criticizing. Saying Motiva's low information lie. It's basically saying it's not clinically proven, not designed to evaluate safety, et cetera. So this is like a kind of like a real hard-hitting critical post. Like I said, I don't even know who this group is, but, you know, what do you guys think about this?
The past year, we've been getting a lot of patients coming in like demanding Motiva implants, and you know, I'm all about having new implant companies come on board and getting, you know, unique advantages to different implants and stuff like that. But I do think there is some undertones of their marketing that is suggesting some of the stuff that this post is talking about. I do think it's a little bit harsh. But I mean, just like, you know, sometimes I feel this way too. Patient comes in, I want Preserve, I want, which is a technique where, you know, you guys know where they go, where they use the minimal incision, they do it under local and stuff like that. This is what I read that was the best way to do it. And they're convinced of this. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to educate and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm just like, all right, well, you really want to use Motiva, I'll do it. I have Motiva, I'll do it. I'll do the best job I can, but it wouldn't be my first choice in terms of an implant for you because I want to still take care of them as best I could. So, you know, it's a little backlash, and I don't mind it, but it is a little bit over the top.
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, Johnny is, and this This is not a physician. I know that. I don't know. It's some sort. I think it's some sort of advocacy group. I'm pretty sure, but
this was on Instagram.
Yeah, this is an Instagram post and or TikTok, one of the two. But Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with Dan. I mean, one, if this was somebody truly educating, I would love for them to actually talk about and say, "Hey, this is what I'm saying about this," rather than some statement. Because I do think that we need to be careful of not hurting the overall specialty. Because the problem is, I feel like we've made a lot of great strides from an overall science. When you make stuff statements like this, and Dan kind of alluded to it, I feel that you hurt the overall because most patients aren't going to know the big differences of some of these implant brands. And I worry that you hurt the overall world of breast implants, breast augmentation. And we've done so many good things, a lot of stuff by you, Bill. And you're going to pull the whole kind of specialty and kind of procedure down with it without being really clear about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably, we probably, Rod probably need to do a show just because there is a lot of talk about this. It comes up at the meeting, like,
Right.
this thing about like, I know what certainly the company claims about what they've shown or proven, but I think there's a lot of other people that do think that, as Dan basically alluded to, that it's being over marketed. There's actually different studies I think out now that both are showing opposite things. So probably needs to be discussed at a higher level in another TBH. But yeah, I think there's some good points. I mean, this is kind of a very hard hitting. Just all it is like an image basically, and there's some verbiage on there.
I think when people put stuff like this out there without kind of explaining it, it's like both of you said, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the patient, not good for the plastic surgeons. And I think, haters always hate. And, I think...
Well, you can add to this.
What?
When you do a post like this, you can add your reference, you can cite your sources, right?
Right.
This is obviously clearly a shock ad. But if you are going to make some claims, I've had people like, show me the sources. At one time I said, chemical-based sunscreen with avobenzone is no longer FDA recommended, and people lost their bananas. They're like, oh, you don't like sunscreen? I said, no, I didn't say that. And they're like, well, show me the studies. They're like, okay, here it is. here's a news article about,
right.
not listing it. This is my recommendation. Don't, read the source right here. So I feel like you could do a post like this, maybe tone it down, and then add some sources in it.
Yeah,
so,
and you guys are making some great points. I think it's just like captions, sources. Those are things I think most people don't think of. So.
Yeah, and science. Wow, that's always missing. God, the missing link in social media is science.
Imagine that.
Oh my God.
All right, we've got another one here. This is another video. Let's take a look.
So yes, you can absolutely breastfeed with implants. I myself personally did 1.5 years each kid without any trouble. So absolutely how the implant is placed can affect your ability to breastfeed. So first of all, implant placement. So if the implant is under the muscle, studies seem to indicate that patients have an easier time breastfeeding. I don't see that in real life, but that is certainly in our literature. And then the interesting thing is that there's not good data that the incision matters, but in real life it absolutely does from my experience with my patients. So with a periareolar incision, you have to place the implant by cutting through the breast tissue, whereas if you have the implant in the crease of the breast, you are coming up under the breast tissue, whether it's under the muscle or over the muscle, and you're not cutting through the breast tissue. So I found in my practice that women who have trouble breastfeeding, it's almost always people that have had a periareolar incision. And so although the literature is not strongly supporting that, that is certainly what I see in real life. So if you're having a breast augmentation and you are wanting to breastfeed in the future or maximize your chance, I would say the most important thing is the incision placement. I would go with in the crease of the breast. And if you're going to look at the data, under the muscle, although in real life, I don't see that as being a factor.
What do you think, Johnny?
I like it. I actually know Kelly. She's a sassy thing. This fits her. This is also a good point that like you got to make social media be you. She loves doing this, picking some topics. I also think that it was nice that she was clear about like, hey, here's what I see, here's what I believe, here's what I've seen in my practice. So she was seemed like she tried to be very clear between like data and what just was her own personal opinion, which definitely appreciate.
Yeah. Dan, what do you think?
This one I got a little problem with because I don't, it's like, did you actually go out and check with all your patients afterwards about the periareolar incision and the inframammary? So I feel like she says what she sees in her own practice, but she doesn't really clarify that, right? Because like I cite the studies for inability to breastfeed based on nationwide statistics because I don't go and I don't measure my my patient's ability to breastfeed after a breast augmentation, because that's a long-term follow-up, which I could do. So I kind of stick to the nationwide statistics, and the difference of incision so far as from what I would be able to read in the studies, doesn't actually show a difference in what she says between perirealar and inframammary. It makes sense anatomically, but I don't think the studies support that it makes it harder to breastfeed if you're perirealar incision, because that's an incision I typically use in my practice. So.
But I must say, it really is believable, because you know what she started with? She said, I did it, I did it, I had it done, and I breastfed. Boy, that is a game winner in her opening line, I must say. You know, and you're right, Dan, you know, the science probably isn't out there, but she did say that, actually. So I thought it was very believable, because as a female, she said, okay, I had an implant, I breastfed.
Yeah.
Okay, I rest my case. You know, neither one, all of us couldn't say that. You know.
Or I mean,
pick and choose your battles here.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was very powerful. Didn't you, Bill?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I think that's it's definitely people can relate to that, obviously. So it's a.
But this goes for all social media. I mean, the more personal you can make it, the more authentic, the more people are going to do it. I mean, for me, I shared my weight loss journey on our social media, and to this day, I'll be, you know, at a Texas football game, and somebody will be like, hey, you know, we get up, we work out every morning, and we see you at the gym. So I think whatever you're doing, the more authentic, the more you can make it relatable to people. I think the better you're going to do, the more people are going to be attached to it. So I think from that standpoint, she did phenomenal.
Yeah. All right. Very good. All right. We're going to move to the sew it up to this case of the day. So let's go to our sew it up. Okay, Cam. Let's bring up question number 3. This is an interesting one. So it's have you ever seen? It says, ever seen breast greed? So this is a social media term, and I think we have a video. So let's roll it.
Boob greed, what is it? All patients that have breast augmentation go through a process afterwards where initially they say, these are great, but they're a little big because they're swollen. Then swelling goes down. Should I have gotten more? I should have gotten more. 6 weeks, 3 months out, I really think maybe I should have gone for 10 cc's, 20 cc's more. That does not make a difference, okay? Breast implants, the volume of the implant is the least important thing. The most important thing is the base width of the implant and the projection that's there. So if someone tells me, I did a 305, should I have gone for a 310? I say, look, that's like a tablespoon of fluid. It's not going to make a difference in what's visible. Going up by 100 cc's or going down by 100 cc's would be visible. But don't let that boob greed creep in. Don't let that concept of I want more to affect you, because the reality is after a great result, patients always want more. And the truth is those breasts are perfectly fit for your body. That's the right balance. They look great now and they're going to look great in 10 or 20 years. Don't fall victim to boob greed. Don't rush back in to add more volume to your chest, because it will only leave you with a backache, a neck ache, and not as great of a result as you have right now. That natural balance is what we're going for. Think about yourself before surgery, talk with your surgeon about the sizing, do the measurements, get it right, and then trust the process and trust that they're the right size for your body.
All right, Dan, what do you think? Have you heard of breast greed before?
Yeah, we're in Beverly Hills. So there's total greed everywhere. You know, we have greed everywhere. But you know, Dan's right. I know Dan well. He's an excellent surgeon, and he's right. You gotta trust the process. There's a point where it gets too big. I find that. Well, I mean, personal experience. You know, I have patients do a lot of soul searching in terms of size, so but I still get that, and it's a patient education thing. This is where his post is great, but maybe we can make. Actually, this is a great content idea. I'm gonna actually tell the team we're gonna have a boob greed skit, and we're like, this is what you're gonna experience afterwards, because it's true. A lot of patients experience this, so I think it's a great educational post. I think we're just gonna make it more fun and talk to Dan about it.
Johnny, what do you think?
No, I agree. They go through all the phases, too big, too small, you know, want to be bigger. And that's why, like most of us, we make people wait several months. But for the most part, the only thing I would disagree with Dan is I think for the most part, once they get out to that 3-6 months, the vast majority of them are super happy. And so, you know, it's kind of letting them go through what I call the phases of the life cycle of the breast dog. Too big, too small, then they love it. And I'll say this in front of their family members, because 100% at some point they'll say that they wish they had gone bigger.
Yeah, it is an interesting phenomenon because patients definitely they get used to their breasts. We see that, and we oftentimes, it's funny if you take a patient in a year and show them their pre and post-op picture, a lot of times they go, "Oh my God!" Like they don't just like forget they have a breast implant, right? And they go, "Oh well, I should do a breast augmentation," but they already did a breast augmentation, And so they say, "Oh my God!" Like I totally forgot how I was, but yeah, it's out there. But I'd actually never heard of that term. Have you heard that, Rod?
Yeah, I've I know Dan well too, and I mean I see it. Nose greed, face greed. I mean, people need to get accustomed to their new face, their new breasts, their new nose, and it's a process, and it's really part of the informed consent. So I think this is where social media really is powerful. When you have social media like that really is impactful, you go, wow, I never thought of it as a greed thing, and I think it's a good thing because that's very layman's terminology.
All right, so let's go to question number 4. So here's another one for you guys. This is like, what are ballerina boobs? My favorite word, boobs. Come on, it's like, anyway, what are ballerina boobs? Is this just a pure social media term? Let's roll it.
Ballerina boobs, you've probably seen it all over your feed. Small, natural, athletic, no dramatic curves, no obvious augmentation. The internet's calling them ballerina breast or yoga boobs. But this is not actually a new idea. A few years ago, the same concept was called slim plants. The idea that you could fill an existing cup, maybe go up one size, and have results that only you would really know about, yeah. For a large portion of patients I see, this has always been the standard. What's changed is the technology. We can use smaller devices placed more precisely than ever before. It's common for us to use what's called a mini, as low as 150 cc's in the lowest profile available. For patients who are super fit, small framed, with naturally
all right, I think that's plenty on that.
This creates
so do you guys hear that? Ballerina boobs. I think they were calling it Pilates breasts or something the year before, but Dan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, we're guilty of that. We've done some posts on it, and my teams, they're just chuckling over here because I didn't hear about the term, and they're like, let's talk about ballerina boobs. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's not really a new thing, like you said, and but if it exposes somebody who never really wanted this fake Pamela Anderson appearance breast, back in the day, Pamela Anderson, if it gets them like to that option, they're like, oh, this is an option. I think it's a good thing. And so I think his post is spot on and accurate.
Yeah. Johnny, what do you think?
No, 100%. I think Anna's made a push with the ballerina boobs on our website. It's one of the most visited sites. So patients have latched onto this term. It is super popular. But I think really you can do this with a variety of different implants. I mean, no question. I think people have latched onto it with one specific implant. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think there's a lot of ways to achieve this. And just like Rocco said, I think that it's not a new thing, but definitely the term has been on fire and definitely has become much more popular in social media for sure.
Really? I thought in Texas we would call that the why bother.
Yeah.
Why bother? I mean,
but to Dan's point, it has driven new patients to the office. People that either have heard about this, and so that's been super interesting for sure.
I would like to see a study that shows what these little ballerina implants look like and how many go upsized in about 3 to 5 years. That would be a good study to do. We go from ballerina to, Vegas.
Ballerinas don't have a lot. They're done breast implants, right?
I mean, I think it's a slam to ballerina.
Johnny, I thought isn't your then they say that your mantra? So you just said, look, go big or go home.
Oh, 100%.
And then you said it's the most visited on your website in Texas.
It's been one of the most visited for sure, which has been interesting that we've seen. Because I'll tell you, we do a lot of big implants, and people coming in specifically asking for smaller implants, which has been really, really interesting because it wasn't the mainstream of my personal practice. Definitely the limits of the the body frame a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was good. We've always had. So I've always had natural breast augmentation. We have had that for a long time, and I think Johnny, I mean, I think it's great. Embrace it, because people come in all different shapes and sizes. You got people that want smaller, and like, heck, you could do that. You do a great job on that too. Why not?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would in my practice, I'd say 5 years ago there was definitely a trend going smaller. I would say now probably there's a trend people wanting to go to a bigger size, but the term, I think, is, whether you like the term or not, what it's speaking to is the subset of patients that really doesn't want that augmented look, and they want a small athletic look, and it's a good one because it creates the awareness that, I think there's some people that think, oh, if you get a breast implant, you're going to look like Pamela Anderson, the Baywatch look, and that's just simply not true. There's a whole spectrum, and so you can have an implant that's incredibly small and still gives you incredible shape, but nobody knows you would even have a breast implant because you don't have a big breast. So I think it's good because it creates awareness and dispels some myths, that are out there about breast implants.
Yep.
All right. Very good. So listen, great stuff. So we're going to move on now to the absolute best show summary ever. Look, the McAfee guys are running scared because of this, Rod. So it's time for the RJR Op Report.
As we conclude this discussion on breast implants and social media, which, by the way, was amazing, I want to leave you with the 4 S's: social media, science, safety, and surgeon. I know they all sound like they don't go together, but they do, because social media can educate, but it can and never should replace science. Likes, followers, and viral videos do not equal facts. And science must guide every decision we make. And safety must always remain our highest priority for our patients. And ultimately, the most important choice is not the implant, it's not social media, it's the surgeon. So my advice is use social media to learn, science to understand, and safety to guide your decisions, and choose your surgeon wisely. The best outcomes occur when all 4 of these S's work together. And that's my final op report.
Thanks, Rod. That's some great stuff. Well, that was a really full throttle show indeed. Thanks to our 3 experts, Dr. Barrett, Dr. Franco, and Dr. Tutela, for such great insights and discussion. Thanks to the Media PSC team for all that they do to make this show happen. And especially thanks to all of you in the audience. Keep clicking the like button. Make sure to send us all your questions and topics that you want to hear about in the future. Don't miss our next episode of TBH Breast Implants coming to you this summer. See you all very full throttle on the next TBH.